Okay, last video, so we're going to continue to build out the error handler, and we'll see the results of that pretty soon. So there is a library called, what's it called? Chessie, Chessie, that will do a lot of this for you. This stuff is fairly straightforward, so it's kind of fun just to build it out your own. But it's nice to go to the different websites and see how everybody else does it, so you could kind of keep it on track. You could see that I prefer doing lists rather than how F# for Fun or Profit does it, and the Chessie library does validation, where you have specific functions for each one. I prefer to have a little more generic than that. And so now if the we gotta get the failed report in there and log the errors. Normally I'd log the errors probably just on a database, but in this application I'm actually not gonna really log anything because I don't have that much time. So this, all this is just helper functions to get things going. I'm sure in a full-blown application just for F#, you wouldn't have to do all this. They'd have everything ready for you. And so I haven't used F#'s, the most popular one, library right now for framework for WebAPI. I believe it's called Suave. That's the most popular one right now. That's the one you hear about. That gets the most traffic, and there's other ones out there too, but I haven't tried it out yet. A lot of times people prefer to stay on what's known and what's supported by the biggest companies. So it'd be more for personal projects. So you can't actually, code like that I'm writing can't be written in the namespace there. So I have to actually throw it into a different file. So for every controller, you'll have to do that to HTTP result with function so you can get the context of the function. Like I said, in a pure F# solution, you wouldn't have to go through this extra work. So let's so sometimes, you have your post results, or you have your just your standard gets, and then you have your other ones, and so it's nice to say, okay, to JSON result, or or something specific for a post result if you want to return something different, or in a different style, or if you want to do something in the header that you send back. So I just usually have a bunch of helper functions just to do those different things. And usually not very many. It's only like 3 or 4 functions that you'd need that for. So here we go. Now we get to actually write the array-oriented programming here. So you got your person, then you need to validate the person. with that static function that we attach to it. And you could put the person and the type in an actual module instead of doing it the way I did, but I prefer to attach the validation directly to the object there. So here we need to write the bad request pattern match. So if it is a bad request, then attach the message, and if it isn't, then say it's okay and return it. So yeah, you get a choice in, and it's a string choice, and we're going to return it with the special type, the union type that we had. That'll actually be more specific to web programming. So in this case, bad request. So that should work now. Then normally you're like getting information and things like that, or you're going to add the person. So in the when you add a person, you want to, of course, do your try catch, because you don't know what could blow up in there. And try catch is it has its uses, but for the most part, you try to avoid having to use it, except for extenuating circumstances. And there's someone that said, yeah, when they stick to more the functional way, they could release code that the user never sees that there's an error. So there we got our try catch. That pattern matches it over and puts it on the railroad. And then of course we need to pass it the function. And we're still missing something. So you could look at the type there and say, okay, what are we missing? A lot of little pieces to do this. Oh, the bind. Yeah, very important. You need to be able to bind the functions together, the object. So this is a very key part. And in other functional languages, it's more elegant than how F# is, because they have higher order kinds. Since F# doesn't have that, it's a little sloppier. Not as much of the functions are hidden. And for the bind function, a lot of times they'll actually just create a symbol. But we're going to keep it just as bind to keep it explicit. And so for the symbol, you'd see a close bracket, equal sign. There we go. We have created it, and it works. You see that? It tells us all the different errors. Pretty nice. Now you could be a guru at WebAPI. Or port it over to the other side too, or .NET Core. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the series.